Now, so far we've been picking on the territory state field and focused exclusively on state-level territories. The metalocator supports a lot of different types or shapes of territories. So if you think about a location that services a state, they service the entire state. But there are all different types of territories. For example, somebody who services an entire country, somebody who services an entire city or county in the US. Maybe they service a list of postal codes. Maybe even they service a polygon-bounded area. For example, somebody who only services the east side of Milwaukee, only east of the lake, right? Or excuse me, only east of the river. The other areas that the other types of territories you might encounter are service radiuses, meaning that I will only perform services within 50 miles of my physical location. And then there's even a special territory for I perform services everywhere, and that is what's called a global territory. So sometimes in reality, the service areas end up being combinations of these various shapes. We've got a couple examples here. For example, I perform services, I'm physically located in Tacoma, Washington, but I perform services in the state of Illinois, but then also in Germany and Mexico. And so I could also combine other different types. So it could be for the state of Illinois, for the countries of Germany and of Mexico, and then maybe for 25 zip codes in France. And so we're going to keep this example relatively straightforward, though, just to show how you can combine multiple territories and the options that are available. So now that I've made this change to include the territory country field, I want to illustrate again how the fields control and the field types play a role in territories. So I'm going to import the data that we were just looking at, and we're going to import a CSV again. And now I have this new column that the system doesn't recognize immediately called territory country. I'm going to let the import system create it. I'm going to wipe out the data that we have in Metalocator and replace it with what we're importing. And then when it does that, if I go under fields, I'm going to see a new field down here called territory country. The type of this field is text, and I really want it to be, I want to let Metalocator know that this is a territory country field. And so I'm going to go in under fields, and I'm going to change the field type, and I'm going to change it to country list, and go ahead and click save. Now that I've designated this as a territory country field, the interface will know how to use it when the user performs a search. And so now that we have multiple territory types in here, I want to first update the search so that I can allow the user to search for multiple countries. And so what I'm going to do is under search form, I'm going to add another drop down, and I'm going to add the country field and add that to the search form. And I'm just going to rearrange a few of these so that they're in kind of geographic hierarchical order. And in this case, I'm going to add a label to this one, country, so that the user knows what it is. And I'm going to quickly check that we actually have DE and MX shown. I'm going to go over to territory settings, and I'm going to specify that I want both my geographic and territory-based results to be included in the dropdowns. And so the other thing is I will also enable geographic-based results, and I'll turn this off so that we still have, they'll put these back to their defaults so that we have a bit of a easier test case. So now that I've made those changes, I'll click save. One of the things that I'm also going to do is under the country dropdown, now that I'm pulling those 2-letter country codes into the country dropdown, I'm going to enable auto translate. And what that's going to do is it will automatically translate those 2-letter country codes into full country names. And so that allows this type of display where I have now country dropdowns that include Germany, and they also include Mexico. And so when the system is performing searches now, it's going to consider both the state level territories and also the country level territories. So let's search, for example, for a zip code in or city in Mexico. Let's search for Mexico City. Now I see sample location 1, which includes that territory in Mexico. I could also search for a zip code in Germany. And I see that we have one here, 10115, and that's in Germany. And so if I perform that search, notice I still see sample location 1. And that is an example of providing multiple types of territories for a single location. Now, remember, this location also services Illinois. So in the United States, I could search for Chicago. And if I perform that search, I should still get sample location 1. Now remember that we also have those locations, that's 3 and 4, who also service the state of Illinois, which is why those are also being returned. And so this is an example where we've got multiple territory shapes. So if you imagine that the map was filled, you could see that if you imagine that the state of Illinois was colored red, for example, or bucket filled, you would also see the entire country of Mexico filled, and then over here in Germany you would also see that entire country bucket filled. So any search for any point within the country of Mexico, and also any search for any point that is city, province, zip code, whatever, in the country of Germany, that one location will be returned. And so that means that they cover the entire state of Illinois and the full countries of Germany and Mexico. And so there can be a situation where within territory settings, you want a specific interface to only include a specific type of territory. So if I wanted to exclude territories of the country, if I wanted to include only territory countries in this particular interface, I could do that if I wanted to. Or if I wanted to include just state level territories in this interface, and maybe I had another interface that was only using these particular fields, I could limit this interface to only those particular types of fields. So the idea here, though, is that you can combine multiple territory types together in order to fully define the service area of one particular location. So this example, we talked about territory states and territory countries, but we could also go on to define like territory postal codes or territory cities to further expand the service area for this particular location. And that's how you can combine multiple territories together in order to define the various territories and service areas of these locations.